Welcome back to the Goalie Corner podcast presented by One Stop Goaltending. I'm Coach Michael. Today we have a very special guest. I'm going to read this bio right from your university website so I don't mess it up because they wrote it way better than I can. But
All
this
right.
is a goalie who was selected to the NCHC Academic All-Conference team, named the NCHC Goaltender of the Month in November, started all 38 games in net, had 21 wins, two shutouts, posted a 2.47 goals against average and a 903 save percentage, made a total of 872 total saves, played just under 2,300 minutes, not done yet, just hold up. Had 21 games where allowing two or less goals. And then somewhere I saw here he had a 38 season high 38 shots against Omaha and a 23 save shutout against Colorado College. This is Mr. Cameron Rowe from University of Western Michigan. Welcome.
hmm Thank you. I appreciate the intro.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your college doing a bio for me, to be
Yeah,
honest with you.
yeah, they do a good
Um,
job. They do a good job of that.
they must have some English majors somewhere, hey?
Our media team is pretty solid.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking your time. I'm sure your life's a little busy right now, even in the off season.
hmm
Um, Wanted to pick your brain and share your journey through your hockey career so far in hopes that it's inspiring the younger generation of goalies to be okay with different journeys, different avenues, different paths that they're taking, right? You are from the States, so it is quite different journeys.
hmm
Um, Up here in Canada, like our the cream of the crop right now is for minor hockey is academies, and there's a real negative mindset with people who don't make academy teams that I really like to snuff out in the goalie world, right? But let's back up. Let's talk about you as you are the special guest. Can you share your journey into goaltending? What or who inspired you to become a goalie?
Yeah, so I played, just how most kids start playing, like house league, like learn to play, learn to skate type of stuff. And we didn't when you're that young, there's not really a designated goaltending position. You're all kind of cycling in and out. But around I'd say about 8 years old at that point. I'd played a couple years as a defenseman, and just house league youth hockey. And I remember a spring season here in the States, it's only about 6 weeks.
Mhm.
Where I'm from north side of Chicago. And at that point, I'd played goal a couple of times, just like I said, cycling through. My parents were like, hey, if you really want to try this, like, this is going to be the time to do it because it's only 6 weeks. If you hate it, then we're not signed up for the entire season. And I was only the only goalie on that roster for that team, and I think I just fell in love with that position from there, and it's stuck ever since. So I was about 8, maybe 9 years old when I first started playing goal, and
Well,
it's been like that since. So
this might be a hard question, but if your parents brought it up, you must have said at some point to them, "Hey, that looks cool," or "Hey, I like that guy's gear," or something like that, like, or just
mm-hmm.
curious, right?
No, yeah, I think it was a mix of a bunch of things. A good buddy of mine that I'm still good friends with today was he had a set of gear on that house league team, and I was like, man, like that's sweet. And when he couldn't go, I would sub in and play. So there was definitely a little bit of a draw from within me to be a part of that and be in that position. But honestly, I think the thing I love the most about the position was you were on the ice for the entire game.
Yeah,
Um, I didn't like being on the bench. I didn't like coming off the ice. So um, I liked being on the ice for the whole time, and I think that was just a piece of it. And even at a young age, realizing, hey, I could play every game, like and be on the ice for every game. I think as a kid, you can't really ask for anything better than that. So,
I think so
and
too.
then and then just falling in love with all the other nuances of the sport came with age and over time. And but definitely the gear, and then just being able to play every minute was something that's what drew me in.
That's funny because I remember saying that to my parents, being
Mm-hmm.
when I was making the argument to become a goalie. I was like, you know what? It's 60 minutes. You're just standing there. Like I can last a whole 60-minute game just standing there. And
Mm-hmm.
they laughed pretty hard. Um,
Yeah.
and now I'm laughing about that. But I don't think I think it's probably a common trait that goalies probably don't like sharing too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want the net. Give me the net.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Anywho, moving forward, you mentioned a couple nuances that made you kind of fall in love. Is there anything that like sticks out in your head, like a memory from when you were young and playing? You're like, yeah, this is my thing now.
I think I learned from a pretty young age that what it was like to be a part of a team in that role. And I'm not. I definitely think I'm an outgoing person, but I don't have a large personality. It's kind of how I would describe myself. So I liked being able to be someone that everyone could count on and kind of just focus and do my own thing, and I wouldn't really have to worry about the other guys on the ice. And I liked being able to compete every single day too, knowing that for our team to succeed, I had to be at my best every day, and that was something I learned very young that I still take with me every single day that I touch the ice now. That it's my job to be prepared for the team and for these guys, and I think I learned to play for other guys on the ice rather than just myself. And um, I think, and then part of it too, you're playing every minute of every game that you learn not to dwell on things. You learn how to move on. You learn how to enjoy the good times. And I've always had great relationships with guys I've played with at any age, and I think that's the special part of the game. And I liked being able to win games that mattered. So
This I don't want to keep bringing myself in here, but I
no,
am
you're good.
curious. I am curious a little bit, maybe. You know how everybody's like, oh, how do you deal with the pressure? Or how do you like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you're either like the hero or the zero. Like, I always kind of enjoyed that pressure because, like, very rarely is there a single thing in a team or a single position in a team sport like goaltending or maybe pitcher, maybe quarterback that you can dictate almost the entire game with your team. But like, if you show up and you get a shutout, like your
Mm-hmm.
team has a very high chance of winning, right? Or if you show up and you stink, your team has a pretty good chance of losing, right? Like that was
Mm-hmm.
more fun because of that. I feel like back in the day when I played. Um, and I'm only 30, but I've been out for a while now. But like that's what I miss the most is like that feeling of like, okay, I'm gonna show up at the rink. I've done all my preparation. I've done all the work I could. I'm either gonna be the hero or I'm gonna be the zero. Let's find out.
No,
That's
I'd agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that's part of the game, and I think maybe sometimes it's hard to verbalize it, but there definitely is a feeling that, and almost every goalie I've talked about has had that feeling or understands something like it, that that's kind of the draw to the position, right? Is that you have that control over the game as you react to the game. That's how
yeah,
I like to look at it, is I can control how I react to it, but um, it's one of the rare positions in sports where you can kind of do that. So
yeah. Let's move through to juniors.
mm-hmm.
Question I probably should have asked beforehand. The USNTDP, is that the US National Training Development Program?
Yep.
So how the heck, that seems like prestigious of prestigious. How the heck did you get into, not trying to take anything away from you here,
Yeah.
but do they have different teams for age groups? Is it one team and you were selected to be a part of that one team based on that age group?
So it's a 2-year program. So you
Okay.
go live in Plymouth, Michigan. That's where it's based out of now. That's where I stayed. So there's technically two teams, but they're under the same name.
Okay.
So you're there every. every season there's two rosters. There's a U17 roster and a U18 roster.
Okay.
But you're under like the same
Umbrella.
entity. Yeah, right. And so you go in the ages, so it's U17, U18, so you're 16, 17, turning 18. You're there for 2 years and you're with your birth year. So my first year, our U17 year, it was all kids on our team were all born in the year 2001. That's my birth year. And then the U18 team was all kids born in 2000.
Okay.
And then the next year, it was we were the higher team, and then the U17s were all kids born in 2002.
Okay.
So you
Do
split
you
up.
get like selected or do you have to go through like a tryout process or
There's a little bit. There's a mix of everything, I guess.
okay.
They have a 40-man camp every year where they bring in the top 40 kids of that age group, and then you go
Wow.
to essentially a training camp for 3, 4, 5 days, and it's a tryout. So every year, I think they bring in about 5 goalies. I think that's the magic number that they try to bring in, and then they take two from that, and it's just the top at that time, the best kids in that age group. And you're
Wow.
there for two. Yeah, you're there for 2 years. You play international tournaments. You play in the USHL. Your U18 year, you play colleges too. So you get a lot of really good competition for being kind of the younger guys. But
No kidding.
it's an incredible experience.
What you're the first person that I've talked to that's gone through that.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
what was that feeling when you got that? I'm assuming it's probably a piece of mail, like rather formal of like, we are asking you to come to this 40-man camp and like, here's your next 2 years, here's the path. Like, we don't have something like that in Canada. Like we have the
Mm-hmm.
WHL and the OHL and stuff like that, but this is like you're locked. Are you locked in for 2 years, or is it like after the first year you might want to leave?
No, you sign a contract, and in
Whoa.
the contract, there's a um some sort of clause that says if you want to leave, this is the penalty. I don't know what that is, but every year there's guys that like we had a kid our first year that left after the first year, and every year there's a couple movement stuff, and it's all for other personal reasons. And
Yeah.
so I think the good thing is that you have some sort of security for those first 2 years.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
think that helps your transition into youth hockey to juniors because you're not worried about, hey, am I going to get cut? Now, like my U18 year, my goalie partner was Spencer Knight. He was
Oh
for two
wow.
years. So my U18 year, he took the reins and he was kind of
Yeah.
the man for a little bit there. So when you might not play, you might not get the same amount of ice time. That's any team you're ever going to be in. Now, when you're 17 years old, it's kind of hard to understand that and to learn it. But that's also part of the program's NTDP. That's part of their program is to create that pro environment when you are so young. So you're almost getting a head start in college and pro when you're dealing with the business end of the sport that you're like, oh, I kind of understand this. I went through something kind of similar. So,
Do they
um,
do they treat you like um maybe this is getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but when you went there, could you
mhm.
feel that difference in environment where it's like, okay, this is a big step. I'm not just playing um, for the city. Like we just have like city programs essentially, right? I'm not
Mhm.
just playing for the city anymore. Like this is a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big deal. And I mean, you wear the USA logo every day, so you understand pretty well what you're representing and how they make it pretty clear at the start how lucky you are to be there, than to not mess it up. But um, it's it's you realize the weight of it at the time, I think, and then when you're going through it, it's just like playing hockey again. I think all the
Yeah.
guys that really succeed there or on any team that I've played on, they just focus on what they do day in and day out. They don't really think about where they are. I'll backtrack a little bit. I think that the guys that really succeed are the ones that focused on where they were. They weren't worried about the extra noise. They weren't worried about the NHL combine or the draft or anything like that. And for me, my second year there, I struggled with that a lot because like my goalie partner was always a projected first round pick. and I was just trying to make a name for myself and try to play up to that level. And instead of trusting my game the way I needed to play, I was always kind of focusing on some where I wasn't rather than
Right.
where I was.
Right.
And it really hurt me in the sense of, I wish I did more with that opportunity, but at the same time, that was an incredible environment to learn that lesson. And it's helped me down the line. So I'm pretty grateful for it. It's just, you got you got to go through the tough times to get the rewards sometimes, and that's just how life goes.
That trying to put myself in those shoes as a U18 player, like that's the peak of like puberty, all the hormones and chemical changes happening in your body. Like that would be the hardest time to take that step back and understand what lesson you're going to learn from this, right? And it sounds like you've
Mm-hmm.
been able to reflect and you're like, okay, it's a bummer that I was thinking about the noise and all this stuff. But now, like going into college, right? University of Wisconsin, I'm gonna make an assumption that you got committed there and some sort of scholarship opportunity. We don't have to get into that, but I'm just assuming that's a lot of noise that that brings, especially University of Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm sure like learning what happened at the USNDTP, they need to shorten that somehow.
Yeah,
But
I know.
um, learning from that experience, like stepping into college, you're like, yeah, okay, like I get it, right? It's like big boy time.
Yeah, yeah. In my college experience is anything but traditional, I would say. So not sure if you knew this, but while I was at USA, before I'd gone there, I committed to the University of Nebraska Omaha to
I did
play.
not.
And then I was committed for a year. They had some coaching changes. And then we kind of came to an agreement that I was gonna no, but backtracking. So I was committed to University of Nebraska Omaha, and then kind of the goalie coach, assistant coach, the guy that recruited me moved on. Um, so I was like, well, I want to try to find something a little bit better. I'd now made the NCDP team, and then I committed to the University of North Dakota.
Whoa.
Um, and then yeah, and then was committed there for a year, and then had some falling out there. Um, and then played a year in after NCDP. I played in USHL. I played for the Des Moines Buccaneers. Then committed to Wisconsin, and then now I'm at Western Michigan. So I really, even in college, have kind of moved around a little bit. So um, yeah, it's been a little bit of a wild ride, kind of going through all that and trying to make the most of each opportunity. But
Yeah.
um, when you sent me, the whole premise of the podcast, talking like giving advice to youth goalies about what they want to do and perceptions, I think something I learned really early on is that it doesn't really matter where you commit or who you commit to, because at any point, like, you never know what's going to happen, right? Especially now with all these guys with free transfers and people coming in, and that's how I had to. I transferred out of Wisconsin because guys were coming in and I wasn't going to get the opportunity to play. And I knew that I could play at the college level already. And then Western Michigan needed a goalie, so I transferred out and went there. So, and that transfer helped me get to the Western, but at the same time, I was in that position because of the transfer portal.
Right.
Um, but looking at it from a goalie coming in, if you're a younger kid, you're 18, 19, even playing it, doesn't matter where you're playing. You could be aging out of juniors. Like it's really difficult to um, commitments now for goaltending, especially. I think is going to be very obsolete in its meaning. Like it's going to be very, you're not going to get, every year you're going to have to double check that you're still on the sheet for them,
Right.
So being able to, we were talking about the noise, right? And looking at all
Yep.
the extra stuff. Like don't worry about what your buddies are doing. Don't worry about this goalie from this state or this province on this team, on this academy got this commit or this offer or whatever. I don't think that none of that matters in the end necessarily. There's a lot of guys that I know that have had the crazy hype and it just hasn't worked out. And then I know guys that I grew up playing against in Chicago and they're playing D1 hockey right with me, and they grinded it up through every level of, in the North American League and the USHL, aged out, and now they're making a career for themselves and at a great team in college. And I think that him and I are going to battle against each other, and it's right there. It doesn't matter how you get there necessarily, and that's helped me kind of put everything in perspective, which has been great. But when you're a young kid going through it, it's tough, especially
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
especially seeing people you've played with sign NHL contracts when you're 18, 19 years old. You're like, the hell is going on? But everybody's got a different road, and you just gotta learn to embrace whatever is in store for you. So
I think it's interesting what the NCAA is doing. And I don't know if you're aware, but there's been talks up in Canada that they might start allowing the CHL players to attend their
mm-hmm,
schools. I
mm-hmm,
I don't love that personally, because that it would kind of kill junior A hockey in Canada and just leave the WHL, OHL, and the Q.
mm-hmm.
But that would make the current players' lives very interesting, and like a lot more of the trades and the portals and stuff like that. Like as long as you get into the league, you can potentially move wherever,
Yeah.
right? It's interesting to see, but I won't bore you with that discussion.
No,
Um,
yeah, I think just my personal opinion on it, it's going to change the landscape. I know for programs and for coaches and teams, they would love that.
oh
It's
yeah.
a whole new pool of players that they can go after now. Well, like you said, the landscape of it, what is that going to look like? Do kids age out of juniors and play major junior and then go to college, or do they just go right into college? Because at that point, it could just be a feeder system for the NCAA if you're able to cross it over,
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's if you have a great you have McDavid playing in Erie, and now he can play for Western Michigan. Like, of course they're going to bring him in at however old he was when he was playing at Erie. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be it's I don't know, it's something interesting for sure. I know that our we've talked to our coaches. We have they've just kind of mentioned it to us a little bit, and and they're kind of like, we'll see what happens, so um, they're enjoying it.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's a big thing, and obviously I don't think it's going to be moving fast. Hopefully it doesn't move fast and it's well thought out. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with the landscape of junior hockey in
Yeah.
Canada once that hits. But let's get back to you here. What was the transition
Yep.
like between junior hockey and NCAA Div 1, right? Like you go from 60, 70 games to 38 games and school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the biggest thing would be you have much more limited opportunity, and you have less time in games to work on stuff. I think the limited opportunity is just less games, right?
Mhm.
The games mean so much more in college than they do in juniors because there's less of
Right.
them. But then in games, a lot of the time you hear about goalies going like, "Oh, you just got to play them to have them work through what they need." In college, you can't do that because you only every Friday, Saturday. But what you can do is work on it in practice. That's the great thing about college is you're still skating your practice in every single day. Um, with the exception of the Friday and Saturdays that you play. But you're the way you analyze it, I like it a lot because you can take your game week to week. Like you can
Yeah.
be like, I had a horrible game or a horrible series. It's gone. I have 5, 6 days until my next game where I can flush it, work on it, and be better for that weekend. I think it teaches you the preparation in just focusing on this week, focusing on the task at hand. But if you do, a negative side of that too is if you are in a rut a little bit, you only have, if you play 4 games, that's 2 weeks already out of the, 4 games is, oh, what is it? It's like 5 to 10% of the season
Yeah.
or something like that. It's a pretty big chunk of change. So you learn a little bit more about how to deal with it in practice. Um, and I think it just depends on your personality and how you manage that. And then managing school, I don't think that school is a hindrance at all. I think it helps you stay on task. Like I don't think I've ever been up late cramming for finals or anything like that. Like you're able to find time to get that work done, and you just need to make it work for you at the end of the day. Like it teaches you time management, and teaches you how to be regimented, and that can cross over into hockey and off ice training and other aspects of your life too. So I don't think that it's really, school can be difficult, and a lot of people would say it's not the most fun part, but at the same time, it teaches you life lessons just like hockey does. So
I was hoping you were going to hit that time management little snippet in there. I think
mm-hmm.
that's the best thing coming out of
Yep.
school or being an athlete, an academic athlete, or whatever the heck they're called nowadays. Like that time management, like as soon as you get that task, like, okay, here's my time to work on it. I got to do it, right? Or I
Mm-hmm.
can't play. And I know some
Mm-hmm.
organizations don't follow to a T, but for the most part, like the coaches and the advisors, they're pretty on it. And it's like, I just got to do it. Like, no point in complaining about it. And you get what you put in. And it was, yeah. When I was at school, like that was like the best thing. You see the players that wait till the last minute, they're always stressed and they're always freaking out that they gotta get something done. And then the players that get it done early that have no stress and they just think about performing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great little piece of advice as well. And that goes for high school too. If you're in high school,
Big
like
time.
like that, like it might seem hard right now because that's all you know, but trust me, it does get harder, but if you learn that time management in high school, you're going to fly through college, whether or not you're playing hockey.
A piece of advice for younger goalies I would give to with dealing with school is be open with your teachers about when you're able to get that work done. Like in my semesters, at the start of each semester, I'll tell them, hey, I can't do work Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Like I can't have anything to do then because I got to focus on, like, I have another job I got to do, you
Yeah,
know. And some people, like if there's an exam on Friday, they'll help you out. Other professors aren't the greatest at that, but that's just the luck of the draw. But I think being able to be like, okay, on my Monday, I want to get this done. Tuesday is this, Wednesday is this, and then I can just focus on hockey for the rest of the week. It makes life so much easier. But just having that open communication can really help build that relationship, and teachers and professors will help you out way more if you go to them first than finding it after the fact.
absolutely. Be proactive, not reactive, right? Um, Here's a
Correct.
kind of
Yep.
an oddball question. Do you have any specific rituals or routines that you follow on game day?
um I wouldn't say rituals. I just think it's a routine a little bit, but I guess it all depends on perspective, right?
There's no like weird,
um
I can't even think of the right word, but I got to flip my stick 3 times before I get on the ice, or I got to give this guy a high five before I jump on.
no I used no I used to do like that a little bit, but I heard a piece of advice. So I used to have a lot of that in my game, like pregame and even practice a little bit. And the piece of advice that I got from someone was, if it doesn't physically help you, like, or or it doesn't make you feel better, don't do it. If it's something you're going to worry about that you didn't do, don't, like, just cut it out. Like just get rid of it. Like I look at it as, my pregame, I get to the rink. If we're doing a home game, I'm at the rink about 2 hours 15 minutes before. I change into my gitch. I roll out the same routine every time. I go get work done with our trainer at the same time before every game. Um, our team, we do our team stretch. We play sewer together at the same time, and we do our own kind of dynamic warm ups, whatever you want to do. And then I like to go sit up in the student section at our rink. About that time, we have Lawson Arena has insane fans. The Lunatics are fantastic. That's what they're called, the
The
Lawson Lunatics.
lunatics?
And you know, The Lunatics, yep. And they show up right at the start of opening gate every single home game. So I like sitting there kind of seeing the ice from their perspective a little bit, and it I think it it's humbling realizing that they're there to have a good time and watch us play, but you can kind of see that you're playing a game and everyone's there to have enjoy it and have some fun. And I like sitting there, and then I go to the bench and kind of look more on ice level, warm up my eyes, kind of visualize a little bit like that. Then I go in and get dressed. But all those things for me, they all have positive benefits, right? Like all of the warming up and stretching and sewer and like having fun with the guys, like I physically feel loose. Like I'm dialed in. I'm ready to go. Then I'm having fun with the guys. Like we got a good pulse on how everyone's energy is feeling today. And then even the mental side of it, just taking a minute to sit and just think and kind of collect your thoughts. Like, all right, now I'm mentally dialed in. Let's go get dressed. I got 15 minutes to get dressed. Then we're on the ice for warm ups. And then after that, it's just game time. But I think like taping your stick the same way before every game, or like you said, high fiving the same guy, or like wait, like you gotta do this specific little nuanced thing that to make you feel good. Does that one specific thing really make you play better? Or if you took it out, would it matter? Mentally, I know that you do it because it makes you feel better, right? It makes you feel prepared. But at the same time, like on the road, like I don't go sit in the stands. I don't, like I don't I have to change where I do my routine, or if we have less time, I might have to cut things out or do things a little bit faster or add in stuff because our game gets delayed or something like that. Like you kind of have to be on the fly a little bit.
Mhm.
And for me, being like everything's regimented at this time, if something happens, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, totally.
Um,
To the point,
so
like, so like if you don't feel like you have to do everything, as soon as you feel like you have to do something, it's probably a good time to shake it up, right?
mhm.
Let's
Yep, big time,
let's
big
pivot a
time.
little bit. It is off season right now. Um, actually,
Mhm.
no, right before we go there, um, how is your role on the team changed from when you were like a freshman to when you were a senior? So first year college compared to fourth year college. Like how I know you've changed schools and that might be a little different, but do you feel like you had extra responsibility? Your role in team somehow has changed, even though technically it's the same. What was your experience like with that?
I think when you're a younger college kid, you have to be open to everything. Um, I think if you go in with a lot of preconceived notions, they might, or preconceived ideas, I should say, they may not be what you thought things are, and it may make it harder to transition. Um, yeah, I think if you're open to it, and you have to be a little bit more trusting than you might be, because you got to trust the guys that are there. Like you can get a pretty good pulse on a guy pretty quickly. I feel like I'm one of those people in 5 minutes I can kind of understand who you are, your demeanor, that kind of thing. And but being open to like to trust those guys and kind of maybe go a little bit farther than you would to show them like, hey, I'm here to be with you guys. I'm here to win a hockey game and do things around the rink that push each other, and don't be afraid to speak up or be a leader from your freshman year. But leadership can also be a little bit more silent, like be the hardest working guy on the ice. I know me and his senior, like the first time you're on the ice with a kid, you've never skated with him before, and he goes harder than anybody else. Like we might tease you a little bit, but at the same time, like we love that because that kid wants to be here and he wants to work. I think, and then the great thing about it is I had great captains and senior leadership my freshman year, sophomore year, even my junior year, and then now as a senior in a fifth year, that's my role now. So it's really fun to take the things that I went through and learned from those older guys, and now I can implement it to the younger guys now to kind of help them out. And, you go through it and you understand how they're feeling, and even if some things may be hard to talk about or some guys are kind of shelled off, it's everyone generally went through the same thing. Everybody has the same coach. Everybody has to wake up to go to practice and play the game the next day. That's You're doing it together. So I think that it's just reminding guys that you're here to have fun. This is a team, and um, kind of showing them what the culture is of that team every day.
So you're building the or teaching them how to build the culture, right? Now you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned 5 year. So you are going back for that fifth year. Now I think that's
Yeah.
because of COVID, wasn't it?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, there goes one of my questions. Easy answer. All right. So now let's pivot.
Yep.
It
There you
is
go.
off season. Um, what
Mm-hmm.
normally do you do during the off season and how might it have changed based on like as you've gotten older, you've gotten wiser, hopefully. Um, like you've obviously adapted your off ice or your off season training program. So what does it typically look like for you now? Like, are you on the ice? Are you in the gym? You just hanging out? Please share.
Yeah. No. The off season, in college, it's the NCAA has a rule that you have to have 2 weeks off from starting the first day your season officially ends.
Oh,
So you can go to the rink. It's all voluntary, but like there's no team activities. Like there's nothing
right.
mandatory in those 2 weeks. So some guys go home for a little bit. Some guy, I still had class, so I was just sticking around. Those 2 weeks are nice because you really the first week you're like, you need a break, right? You just don't think about hockey. I don't think I went to the rink that first week off. Second week you start checking in a little bit more. You'll get a couple workouts. If you want to skate, you can. And then after that, for me, my first month and a half of the off season is just off ice training. It's just flexibility and strength and vision and like the mental side of the game. I don't really want to even look at my gear. Let the body heal up a little bit and kind of focus on what I need to get done away from the rink. If it's an injury, like doing the correct rehab for that, taking the time to work through that to prevent it for next season, and then really reflecting on taking the time to think about, okay, what do I need to get back? And then, for me around June, so if our season ended in say the end of April, mid-April, 2 weeks off, month of May, first week of June around then you start skating again. And then it's I think getting on the ice with your buddies and kind of being the goalie in a shooter skill skate is great because you see 300 shots in an hour. It's fantastic and you get a good sweat and workout in. But at the same time, being able to just take it rep by rep and focus on what am I trying to get out of this day, right? Like, yes, I'm here to be, if I'm with there's 10 shooters, I'm the only goalie, there's no goalie coach, but what can I do rep to rep that makes me a better goalie? What can I do to get something out of this rather than just eating pucks for an hour? And then off ice, on the ice for goalie skates specifically, just pick three things that you want to work on, whether it's an area you really struggled with or it's one of your top areas and you want to be elite at it, or just overall a fundamental like edge work. I think you pick what you want to work on and you just build on it day in, day in, day in. And um, if it's you want to do smaller tasks each skate, and this helps me out a lot because it helps me work towards a larger goal. Like today, I want to do this drill because I want to get better at this. Now you do that for 10 skates over a month and a half. You just did a month and a half of work that you're like, hey, I feel good. My body feels good. I'm on the ice where I can, not mid-season form, but I can compete if needed. Um, but I physically feel great and mentally I'm not worn out at all. And that's really helped me. And we've been really lucky at Western to be able to go to the rink in the summer, go take summer classes and stay there over the month of July and August leading up to the season. We're on the ice, we're working out with our trainers every single day and doing off ice work, and then we have open ice every day. We can go out there do whatever we want for as long as we want. We're really lucky to have that resource. And I think as you get older, you just need to be focused on getting something out of each skate rather than just going out there to stop the puck. And yeah, that's really it. I like to keep it simple. It's the off season. I don't like to think too much about it, but
Yeah.
focus on like one or two big tasks that you can work towards throughout the summer.
Now, when you're on the ice during the off season, are you normally with like your goalie coach, like your guy, or and you're telling him what you want to work on, or is he kind of being like, "Hey, here's what I've seen based on either last time he saw you or based on how your season looked." right? Or is that you kind of telling him like, this is what I struggled with. Can we work on this?
Yeah, I personally, I started working with a new goalie coach out on the east side of Michigan, and I'm from Chicago, so it's tough to get everyday work. Um, and I think that I went there a week ago, 2 weeks ago now, to spend 4 days with him. I did 4 skates with him. These were the things we wanted to work on. That's what we hit on. And since then, we've been in contact a lot about, hey, I skated, this felt great, or today I was even just being like, dude, I was awful today, and he'll make a joke back about that, but just building that relationship, working on that, but at the same time, like I like to kind of do I like to kind of look at it as you do a week of just you want to break everything down and analyze it with the goalie coach and
Mhm.
just be like, these are the things I want to work on. And then over the summer, you can be flexible with skating 2 times a week, 3 times a week, or if you want to go on vacation, you're not worried about like I have to do this every week with this guy. You can take your breaks, you can do what you need to do to mentally regroup, to physically regroup, but you have the steps necessary to be like, this is what we've talked about, and this is what we can work on. I'm going to skate with him again. I'm trying to lock dates with him to skate again with him for a week in the month of August. So we have kind of a bookend to the start of the summer and the end of the summer. And we can kind of finalize some stuff, a little bit more tweaks before we go into training camp for the start of the season. So
When does the
I
start of
would
the
say
season for you?
for us, training camp starts the end of August, first week of September. That's when school starts. And then our first game, I think, is October, is the first or second week of October, that weekend. Um,
It's going to be hard to play or get more games than you did this past year, hey?
yeah, yeah.
Hard to top that one.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Um,
it's hard to talk about. Yeah, seriously.
um, I think that's been awesome. Let me just read one of these questions here. Ooh, here's a good one. Not to put you on the spot. Looking ahead, what are your aspirations in hockey after college, whether it's continuing playing at a higher level or pursuing a career outside of the sport?
Yeah, no, I think it kind of. Can you hear me? Okay, I just switched my headphones. So okay, cool. I think that it's right now. Like, I definitely want to play hockey as long as I can. I think that that's pretty much where my heart is at. After that, it's just determining where that is. I had a couple of you know, couple of teams interested, a couple, minor league teams interested at the end of this year, and kind of nothing really was anything that would take me away from Western and the situation that I have there and being able to compete for that net every day. And so I think that's good to know that that's in the back pocket, but at the same time, I'm looking for something bigger and better, right? A little bit. And it's a little bit different. Going through the season last year, that I could always come back for a fifth year, right? It was my senior year, but I wasn't going to get forced out necessarily. So I think this year it's a little bit different in the terms of we know I can't go back. I got to go somewhere else after the end of the season. So I think definitely play hockey as long as I can. The great thing about going to college, Rouse, you get your degree. It doesn't matter if your degree is in, like my degree is in environmental resource management. So it's a little bit more of a specific field that I could go into with that. But, we have guys with business management degrees, communication degrees, sports management, personal finance. We had an engineer, like you just get a bunch of mixed bags of whatever you want, but that the degree itself, you don't really need to go into whatever your degree is. If it's something you're like I love what I did, so that's something I'm going to try to pursue after
Right,
hockey,
right.
right? But if it's, a lot of the times too, just having the degree and just saying you were a student athlete, like that's worth more than your degree sometimes, is being able to say that. And that you don't have to do it at the NCAA level. It could be, going doing the same thing in Canada, saying that you played at a university in Canada and you went through 4 years of doing that. Like that's there's so many pros to that, and people that will just flat. I know buddies that have gotten hired. They've been told after they got hired, we saw a student athlete and we didn't read the rest of your resume. We wanted you because of that.
So I think that y it's good to have that plan, but at the same time, for me, my focus is on hockey, and I think that if that's what you want to do, then that's all it should be. Um,
Yeah,
but it's good. It's yeah.
I
Go ahead.
I agree with you, right? Like let me tell you, being the old guy I am here, it's as soon as you step out, like you might not miss the training or the workouts that you're crawling home from or the game necessarily, but it's everything else in between, right? It's the sense of belonging into a community, being the team or being the school or wherever. And then it's everybody here I know wants the same thing at the end of the
Mhm,
day, right? For me, I miss the cheering. And then
mhm,
also I do miss actually training. It's like there's nothing else you can do that, okay, I'm gonna do this much physical work and I'm gonna see a result on the weekend, right?
mhm.
That's what I miss about hockey, but I don't miss the aches and pains. I'll let you know. Or getting a headshot. Don't miss those either.
Yeah, or the 1 tee to the nuts to start practice. Those are always fun too.
That's
But
a tough one. That's a tough
yeah,
one. Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
Personal experience there or what?
Oh yeah, we have one guy that would love to just go. Yeah, it was like his joke. He would try to do it every time. But
Was it the engineer?
no, it wasn't.
All right, let's
Yeah,
wrap up here.
sounds good.
You've given a lot of wisdom, a lot of advice. What's something that you can look back on through your career this far and be like, you know what, this piece of wisdom has helped me and I want to pass it forward?
I think something that's really helped my game and the mental side of it on the ice um, is you break the periods down into 5 minute segments. Um, it's the game can be you think about it. I used to always think like God, 60 minutes. That's so like especially at juniors in college, right? Like that's a lot of work. That's a lot of effort to be dialed in for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you break it down into 5 minute periods, so like 20 to 15, 15 to 10, 10 to 5, 5, 0, the game goes by so much faster. Um, and it's even really helped me. Like everyone talks about, like, okay, I gave up a goal, next shot, I got it, right? But sometimes it takes a little bit more to calm down from that, depending on the situation, like how the game is going, how you're personally playing, the team, whatever's going on. Like sometimes a goal goes in and you're pissed off a little bit longer than the 5 seconds after, you know? But the 5 minutes just being able to be like, all right, like we're at 14:45. That last 5 minutes is over. This is a new period, right?
Yeah.
Like this is my 5 minutes that I just need to work through. And then that's over. And then it's like, all right, it's 8:37. All right, I got 3 minutes and 37 seconds left in this period, you know, and it just kind of helps it come down, come down, come down. And that's really helped me mentally just be like, all right, we gave up a goal on the penalty kill, or gave up two in the last 5 minutes. All right, that period's over. It's not going to flow into the rest of these 5, 10, 15 minutes of the actual first, second, or third period.
Yeah.
I think that's really helped kind of. I know I used to always look forward to the intermission. I can go in and regroup and focus on that, but it's just not enough time. It's too far away. Let's say you start first 3 minutes of a game. Like I've had plenty of games I've given up the first goal, the first shot it goes in, and then you got to sit there for 19 minutes to wait to go to the locker room to regroup. I think you just got to start to work on it and kind of increment it and make it a little bit better. And I learned that before I went to Des Moines. So my after my U18 year, and I remember being like, yeah, like like okay, um, but I didn't really implement it until I went to college. And then once I got to college, especially with the speed of that game and how quickly things can change, and the parity, just everybody can beat anybody at that level. It really helped me calm down, move forward. And I think that's just a side of the game that people don't talk about a lot. It's very unique between goalies. So anytime I can kind of say, hey, try this. If it doesn't help, if you don't like it, then that's fine. It's just a tool that you can try out. But that's something that's really helped me kind of stay focused on everything.
I think if you're gonna try it out, try it for more than just one game and one period.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, and don't think about it overly. Like maybe try it in practice first, right? Break the practice down into 5 minutes and all right, yeah, cool. All right, new practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then bring it into a game and see if it helps you. It might not, right? I did the same sort of thing. I did, but like I would even do it even like I would do 2 minute increments and then some games I'd do 10 minute increments. Like I was all over the place just because like when I was playing college, it was we would dominate teams, so I would only have one shot in 10 minutes, or we would be getting worked by a team, so I would have a lot of shots in 2 minutes. And all I was trying to do was either tie or beat the other goalie in that period,
Mm-hmm.
right? The period being 2 or 10 minutes, right? Never really thought of just, you know what? Every game's just 5 minutes. Never really thought of that. Probably would have simplified my life.
And it helps a lot for so I used to really get nervous on the games where you wouldn't see a shot for the first 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And I would be in there jumpy and adrenaline's going like I still don't have a shot on net yet. I played the puck maybe once, you know. But if you think about it, helped me calm that down because I've been like, okay, in that 5 minutes, I didn't get any work. Like that's over now. This is the
Right.
next 5 minutes. And if that's even over, then I'm like, hey, I only need it's 50 minutes of work today,
Yeah.
because I haven't been tested at all. And I think um,
It,
that's really helped calm me down on those games, especially where it's like, okay, this is my first shot, but maybe it's the first minute of the third section of the first period. You know what I mean? Like it's something that's really helped me stay engaged and just focus on building throughout the game rather than 20 minutes, and then overtime or shootout or anything like that. So
yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you again for your
yeah,
time.
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll definitely be following Western Michigan this year and seeing all the success you're going to have. Thank you everybody for listening. If you have any questions that maybe I missed out on, shoot them over and I'll reach out back out to Cam and ask him and get back to with answers.
Perfect.
See you guys next week.
Awesome. Thank you.